Did you have a good holiday? Good. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hello. Welcome to Owlbutcast. Owlbut, as you may know if you watched the last one, has been on holiday for a bit. We had a really good time. Well, that's good news. And this is going to be the last Owlbutcast now till sometime in September, when we come back not only with Owlbutcast but with also our brilliant, it's going to be, isn't it? It is already our brilliant School of the Air. It hasn't started yet, but don't worry about that. So this Owlbutcast is the one I promised you, just to sum up what happened in the general election last Thursday. And we're going to do it with sort of 6 different things. We're going to look at the results, the actual results that happened, what happened after those results. Then we're going to go back and look at something rather unusual or strange. It's up to you to decide about the voting system. And then we're going to look at the makeup of the Parliament. No, how it's made up, numbers and things. Oh yeah, not lipstick, no. Then we're going to tell you something about what it's like to be a new MP, and finally we'll just look at the actual status of the Parliament, the Palace of Westminster. Is it fit for purpose, I think might be the good phrase. Anyway, first of all, the results. Well, we all voted on Thursday between 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock, 7 in the morning and 10 in the evening, and otherwise that wouldn't have been very long, that is true. And the results were, as you're going to see on your screens now. They say that in all the best TV programmes. Very good. Well, this must be one of the best then. And there you are. Labour got 411 MPs. The Conservatives got 121. The Liberal Democrats got 72. The Scottish National Party got 9. The Reform Party 5. And the Green Party and Plaid Cymru got 4 seats each. Now there were others that were elected. Northern Ireland, which we're not looking at because we basically are really only looking at England, but we do include the others. And also there were quite a lot of independents elected to make up the full 650. And this is the change from the number of MPs that each party had in the last Parliament. Remember that Reform didn't really exist at the time of the last Parliament. So that was it. That's how they voted, which meant that the Labour Party had the biggest number of MPs, and they are going to, or were going to, have done, formed the new government. Now on Friday, Rishi Sunak, who had been Prime Minister all this time during the election campaign, went to Buckingham Palace and resigned, told the King he was resigning as Prime Minister, and then a few minutes later, well, it was a bit longer than a few minutes, about half an hour or so later, Sir Keir Starmer arrived at Buckingham Palace, and he was then told, or asked by the King, to form the next government. If you want to know, interestingly enough, during that half hour, we were actually ruled properly by King Charles III. Had any important decisions Had any important decisions had to be made, I think that makes more sense, then it would have been the King who made them, but they weren't. So, we now have a new Prime Minister, but I want to go back to that voting, because in England, as you know, we vote for MPs in 650 different constituencies. Everybody who has the right to vote can vote. Again, go back over our previous Owlbutcasts and see who can vote and so on and so forth. But this time, only 60% of those people who could vote turned out to vote. So that's quite a lot. Well, you don't need the maths, do you? Oh, all right then. That means that 40% of all those people who could have voted didn't vote. And that's one of the lowest turnouts for a long time. I think since 2001, just 60%. Then I think there were 59% or something like that in 2001. But anyway, 60% turned out, and this is how they voted percentage-wise. This will come up on your screen. I'm trying to be a proper TV programme. I'm doing well, thank you. Right, 33.7% voted Labour, 23.7% voted Conservative, 12.25% voted for the Liberal Democrats, 14% voted for the Reform Party, and 6.7% voted Green. Now, I haven't told you the percentage who voted for SNP or for Plaid Cymru, because only people in Scotland and Wales were voting for those. And we, as I said, this website's all about England really at the moment. Who knows what we may do later. So, if we go back to those figures again, have a look at them. 33% of the vote got 411 seats. 14% of the vote, which is about 40% of that, got 5 seats. Now, and in fact, if you look at, sorry, stay on that, 12.25%, which is less than 14%, in case you needed me to tell you that, got 72 seats. So it's a bit strange. And it's even more strange, we'll go back to it again, go back to those figures, because in 2017, the Labour Party, then led by Jeremy Corbyn, actually got 40% of the public vote, the people who voted, but the Conservatives got 42, so they remained in government, although they didn't have an absolute majority. So here we have Keir Starmer with a massive majority of 174, I think it is, leading the party, massive majority, only got 33% of people voting for him. Jeremy Corbyn didn't get to be Prime Minister, but he had 40% of people voting for him. Some people think this should change, and we should change to another system of proportional representation. What we have is called first past the post, so in other words, whoever gets the most votes in. There are other systems available. I know, because once again I lived there for a long time. In New Zealand you don't only vote for an MP for your constituency, you vote for a party. And at the end of it, half the parliament is made up of MPs who are voted in, and the other half is from a percentage of who voted for which party. So I think it's 61 MPs in their case. So if 50% vote for one party, National, Labour, or others, no, there are only those two big ones in New Zealand, then they would get 30 of those other seats. Could be other methods. You can always improve things, but it does to me seem very strange that you get a lower percentage of voting, but you still have a higher majority of seats. Think about it. Something for you to think about. Right. And 60% was a very, very low amount. Okay, now let's look at the makeup of that parliament. No, not the lipstick, thank you. The makeup of the parliament. A few facts about it. As you know, there are 650 seats. There were 300, I think all these figures are correct, there may be one or two out because I've looked them up in certain places and then I've heard somebody say something different, but there were 335 new MPs who had never been in Parliament before. There are 15 who were in Parliament but lost their seats sometime earlier and have now returned. There are now 263 female MPs. Now, when I was born, just after I was born, they had a general election. I think there were about 25 female MPs then, and I believe that in 1987 there were 40 MPs. I think I just heard somebody say that. So that has been a massive change. There is also the first MP who was born in the 21st century. Like you, yes. Thank you very much. Not the 16th century like me, no. Not the 1940s like me. There are not many left from the 1940s actually, but there we go. So, we had the first MP, as I said, who was born in the 21st century. He's a Labour MP for somewhere in Cambridgeshire, and I have actually forgotten his name, and I do apologise. It may appear up here. I think it probably will. Other facts about the MPs, go back to that little picture again, and you will see that 63% of them went to comprehensive schools, 23% of them went to private schools, and 13% went to selective schools. And I must look up what a selective school is. I think we'll get something else coming up there. As a whole, probably only about 7% of people, children, go to private schools. So nearly 4 times as many that actually go to private schools are in Parliament. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not telling you, I'm just saying it's a fact. And there are also 10% of these MPs who never went to university. So you can still do something if you didn't go to university. Don't think that if you don't go, you'll be a nobody. Yeah. I didn't go to university either. Oh, thank you. I'm not a nobody. Right. The next thing we're going to look at is what happens to these new MPs. What happens in Parliament when it resumes? Because don't forget, it was dissolved. It was closed down 6 weeks before the election. Now it's coming back, and it now has to start doing business, governing again. The first thing that has to happen is that they have to elect a speaker, the man who is basically the boss of the House of Commons. And they do that, there's a lot of ceremony involved, the father of the House and the mother of the House, now those are the longest serving MPs. So Sir Edward Lee, who was elected in 1983, which means he's been an MP for more than 40 years. There were several MPs who were actually elected in 1983, but he was the first one to be sworn in, therefore he is the longest serving. You might think that because they all joined in 83 they should all be the longest serving. No, apparently it's the one who was sworn in first. If you want a parallel in sport, go and look up the Le Mans 24-hour race 1966. Sorry, I just had to mention that bit. But he went along with Diane Abbott, who was elected in 1987, so she's been there 37 years, she's been an MP. They went to the House of Lords. The House of Lords told them to go back to the House of Commons and elect a speaker. And then we went through the programme, the way that they go about electing a speaker, and Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who was the speaker last time, is elected as speaker yet again. Now, as I said, each MP has to be individually sworn in, and then with a speaker, an MP sworn in, they can start doing business. But for those new ones, those 335 new ones, it's a bit like your first day at senior school, or even your first day at any new school that you go to. They don't know anything. They don't know, well, they've got a rough idea, obviously, because I'm telling you things and I've got a rough idea and I've never been there. But they have so much they have to do. They all went there yesterday, I think, well, I say all, they probably were all of them, and they were paired up with a so-called buddy who knows their way around, because the Palace of Westminster is slightly larger than your average school. It covers 8 acres, it has 100 staircases, yes, going up and going down. It's not an escalator, it's you go up, oh never mind. And it's got, I think, 1,000 rooms and about 3 miles of corridors. So it's quite easy to get lost. So somebody who knows their way around pairs up with a new MP, they call it buddying. And as well as that, these new MPs have to have an office, they have to have a room. Old MPs who were there and didn't get elected will be clearing out their rooms, so there will be some rooms available. But sometimes MPs have to share. They don't have an awful lot of office space. They also have to hire staff, because MPs will have researchers, will have private secretaries, personal secretaries. One of them is actually elected and one of them isn't, I can't remember which. And they have to sort all that out as well as finding out how they're going to get paid, what their pension is and all the rest of it. So it's quite a bit of fun for these new MPs. I wonder if any of them will get lost and we'll never see them again. I doubt it. But on top of that, next week there will be the state opening of Parliament, and that's when the King comes along and reads out the King's speech. You saw the film. It wasn't about the King. Oh, never mind. Reads out the King's speech, which basically says what Parliament is going to do, what the government proposed to do, the bills they are going to put forward. Don't forget, as far as government works, the government put forward a bill. If it's voted in favour of after going through the House of Commons and the House of Lords and the House of Commons and so on and so forth, it then becomes an act and is passed by the King and becomes a law, given the royal assent, it is called. So there is the state opening, which will be next week. I think probably not next Wednesday, because that's my birthday. And it also happens to be the birthday for Queen Camilla. She and I share, but she's obviously quite a bit older, as you probably noticed. We do share the same date for a birthday, although I'm actually thinking about it. What? Have I invited her to my party? No, but she's never even invited me to her party, which would be my party. So that's an omission there that she needs to look about putting right. But yeah, that's roughly what will happen. And then the government, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has already appointed his cabinet, those secretaries of state who will run the departments, and he's appointed the people under them, various little ministers, whatever, who are going to help out. He's appointed a few people who aren't actually MPs. Not unusual, can be done if they've got more expertise, it's a good idea. But there is one other problem about Parliament. Labour have got 411 MPs, and they sit on one side. If you're looking in through the door, main door, where the cameras tend to look, they're on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side of the speaker. There's not enough room for 411 of them. So they'll have to either sit on the steps or stand in the corner or stand at the end, or maybe some of them will sit over on the right-hand side. I don't know. But Parliament wasn't built for that number of MPs. In fact, I think when I was younger there were only 631. I don't remember why it changed, but old people can't remember things. Yeah, thank you very much. But anyway, that is it. That's what's happened. You now know everything you need to know about your new government. Don't forget, if you're 11 plus, next time we come to vote, who knows, you could be voting. The Labour Party did say they were going to reduce the age of voting to 16, so it could be you who casts the vote as to see what happens. We're going away now to get ready for the School of the Air. We will not be back doing anything until September. Well, we will be doing something, but you won't know about it. Oh, we're not telling you. It's a secret. It is a secret. But Albert, Colin, Molly and I will be back in September with our School of the Air programme. We want to see you there. Please be there. We'll have some fun together. Yeah? Lots of fun. Yes, lots of fun. Okay, see you in September. Bye.